So all I've done is this one pose. So I've just done 1/4 of the run right now. So I just did this pose, did the mirror, and then went back here all the way to 17. The next pose is where we go up in the air. So what I'm going to do is, rather than, if I just let the computer do stuff, it's going to do stuff in the opposite direction of where I want to go. If I look at my reference, what happens is the leg that's at the back position will shoot up and go further back. It pushes off the ground. And this leg, which is in front, goes further forward. But what Maya does is, because it's next in between is on the other side, it's doing the opposite of what I want. So I'm getting no help at all. So in that situation, what I'll do is I'll just copy frame 1, 2 frames over. So it's the same pose. And then I just want to lift the pose up. So I just grab the hip and the feet and the knees and just lift everyone up. So let's just go up in the air. And I don't know how high up, but I know it's got to be higher than where I was. Then I'll take the feet and I'll make sure there's no pivots being used except for rotation. Right, so that foot has to go back. So it's kicking up off the ground, and I want that thigh to go back. Right, maybe that's a bit high up off the ground. There. And this leg should be coming forward. What I like to do with this pose is, this is usually where, if I just sit in my chair and just kind of mime this, I'm like, that's the most rotation, the most twist, the most tension. So I would go looking at the spine and say, well, let's add a bit of tension. Let's really tense that back. Let's push the arms forward a little bit more, bend the elbows just a little bit more, use the shoulders a little bit more, right? Just to kind of get enough tension in here. And I might go grab the clavicles and really kind of push those up. Just so we really get that idea of, there's that tension. This back arm could probably go back a little further. There. So now I'm up in the air. And this leg could probably come forward a little bit more if I want. Okay. Then 2 frames later, again, like I'm not getting a lot of help with the in-betweens, but I'll just make do. This foot should be approaching the ground, right? We're going to do our contact pose. So it needs to be right on the ground. And it needs to be pivoting up on the heel. That. And I have to bring the body down. And if I move this out a little bit, and we have to move that down a little bit just to kind of get that contact point. This foot is rolling forward. And then this arm is starting to roll back. That's good. Usually the computer will move the arms a bit more than I want. Like I mentioned, I try to kind of favor the extremes and sort of ease out a little more gracefully, and then push through the middle chunk with great speed. So there's the push-off pose, suspension, contact. And again, if I want, I could try moving that out a little bit further, but then I've got to compromise and bring that down. I also have to start looking at the twist on the hip and make sure that an easy place to do this is to 0 it, just to make sure, okay, does that feel believable? I was rotated like that. Yeah, that probably feels too squared away. It should just be kind of easing its way towards the center. There. And maybe this pose, that leg feels a bit vertical. So I want to kind of move that up a little bit. Good. Hit S, key everything. And then 2 frames later, it's almost doing what I want, not quite, but this is the passing position. This is the low point. So again, 0 out all these pivots. Make sure the hip is at its low point. This foot is pushing through on its way to the forward position. And I think I probably move this foot back just a little bit more. about halfway. Yeah, this could go back a little bit more there. Okay, that seems to work. Usually with the arms, when you have the arm, when it goes forward, it bends more after the upper arm starts to move back. So we tend to notice is when you snap your arm forward, it will straighten out. So you straighten out the arm on the way forward and bend on the way back. So it's a little bit straighter. If you do too much, it starts to feel very loose, but holding the arms the same shape makes it feel like an action figure, right? So it feels like there's no flexibility. So what I'm doing here is I reach up, and then here, what I might do is when I have another pass, I say, well, I'm going to fold the arm up a little bit more, and it's going to be really kind of compressed through here, and then it will expand once I get to the other side. So it's going to, on this side, I would have it straighten out. So it feels like as I move the arm forward, this reacts. This starts to feel that pressure a little bit. So here I might even straighten it out quite a bit. If you look at some of the old Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny walks and runs, they would do crazy stuff like break the arm like this. And it seems ridiculous, but when you see it move, it's incredibly flexible. So if you do it just subtly enough, you can get away with quite a bit. And it really feels like there's a lot of movement on there, a lot of flexing. Okay, so I'm pretty close to at least the first half. So push off, suspension, contact, down, push off. That's looking okay. Then what I have to do is, just like I did with the first frame, I have to go mirror all these poses. So if I go grab 3 and move that there, and then 5 and move that there, and then 7 and move that there. So it's the right idea. Almost works, right? So I'm looking at half a cycle, right? But I haven't mirrored it. So if I just looked at half the frames, it almost looks like a full run, right? Because I only have half the number of poses in there, but it's almost working. So at least it lets me know, okay, I'm on the right track. I just have to go and do all the mirroring now. So I got to go back and put the lighting back to default and turn back on the wireframe on shaded. There. And turn on the curves. So once you have to mirror a pose a couple of times, it won't feel like such a chore, but it does take a bit of time, and you do have to be a little bit careful, right? Because you can see, like, I got to flip the legs. So I got to go here and, okay, there's the arms. So I'll start with the arms, this one, right click, copy, deselect, this one, right click, paste, and then the legs, 1, 2, copy, 2, 1, right click, paste, and then I have to flip this. So, okay, put a minus sign in front of there. And then I have to grab the spine, and I think it's, is it rotate X? Yeah, flip X. And then do the same thing here, right? So I'll just work my way through. If I'm not talking too much, I'm just gonna go through and get this done as quick as I can. Copy. Paste. And the legs. Copy. Paste. There we go. One more time. Paste. There. Okay. There we go. Huzzah, right? So it's just doing the hard work is the first set of poses. And then mirroring is very tedious, right? And this gets us close. It's still pretty rough, but I'll take it. And I'll just put everything in linear just because I prefer keeping everything nice and simple at the beginning. And then look at the front view. Yeah, I forgot to flip Y around or X on the feet. So this is a really common thing. Even when we grade this, this is something that I've commented in the walk cycle, is like the sliding around in the front view. So how do you solve this problem? Well, first figure out which direction is it. It's X, and you can see it's all over the place. So what I want to do is start with X just being a line. It's going to be a straight line. So I'll go find a pose that I'm happy with. And usually it's got to be one of the push-off poses. It's either got to be this contact pose is the right one, or it's going to be this one. And when I look at this, that looks absolutely wrong. It's like you're running out to the side, right? So it's kind of more of a bow-legged run. That's not going to work for this. So this is the value I'm going to trust. I'm going to copy that and just paste it on the whole curve. So now this leg will run in a complete straight line, and I'll grab that number, right? It's a 0.85 in this case. And I'll go over to this foot and I'll just make sure it's the exact opposite. This whole thing should be a minus. Paste and then hit enter. Okay, let's see how that looks. Now there's going to be issues. Again, you can see the knee, right? So maybe when I copied and pasted some of the knee stuff, it needed to get mirrored because this again is across the mirror plane. So when I look at that, I'll look here and see, is this getting better or worse? Well, what if I took this curve and I just flipped it? Does that get better? Yeah, much better. And then the same thing for the angle of the foot. I was trying to have the foot lean out this way in Y. So I'll go have a look at the rotate Y and just look at that. And I just want to find which number is the right one. Which one is the one that I actually like? So it looks like that looks like a pretty decent pose. Even here at the beginning, maybe that's pretty close. Just grab one, copy it, and paste it on the whole thing. And we can always adjust it afterwards. Hit enter. Did it work? Nope, I didn't grab the curve. There. Okay, so now it's going to stay at one angle pointed out to the side. Right? And it might feel too strong. When I look at it now across when it's moving through, it does feel a little bit like I've pigeon-toed it out a little too far. So it's just this number. That's a -6. Let's try -5, right? Just something, and just keep knocking it back or forward till you get something that you like. And if that was a -5, am I right? +5. There we go. All right. So still some work to do, but at least with the feet, I have things working. The next thing you would start to work on is grabbing, again, I'm going to mirror everything again. I'm going to clean up one side of the body. I'm going to clean up one leg and then flip it to the other side. I'm going to clean up one arm and flip it to the other side. But I would start by tacking on a motion trail. And this will tell you a lot about your spacing, your posing, and where things are moving on arcs and where they aren't. So this is the biggest problem. This just stops moving forward and you go straight down. So it's a terrible in-between. I've done all this by eye, right? So there's going to be mistakes. That's okay. That's why I put the motion trail on there. So what I'd start doing is looking at, okay, well, maybe I should ease out a little bit more. Maybe here at this point, that should really be pushing further. I got to zero out all of these things. I got to key the whole control and just work from the ankle and see if I have enough room that I can keep the leg from locking straight, but it still feels like it kicked off from the ground. And then here, does it go up too high? I can sort of flatten that arc a little bit. And now I'm going frame by frame. This is all up to me, right? I have to do every frame because it's on ones, right? It's very short. And then I'm going to pick up the speed in here. Kind of clusters in there a little bit. That should probably go forward more. Even here, that should probably go a little bit further forward. And then that's going to go like this, and it's going to rotate down. I don't need any pivots. Thank you very much. Just going through and hitting S on every frame just to make sure I'm keying all the channels. And I think what I might do for more of an impact, I'll keep it a little bit higher and I'll just drop down like a stone and see how that feels. What do y'all think? Is that better? A little bit? Still needs some work. This might be a bit of a spacing pop. I don't have to lift this up that high. I could choose to kind of make this arc a little bit more shallow, and then I'll do another pass looking at the drag on the ankles. I mean, I want that to drag behind a little bit and not have it sort of rotate forward too quickly. Make it feel a little more loose. There. I think I'd like it to kick back a lot more, but I'm running out of room. Ideally, it'd be nice to get more distance out of this thing. And then really pick up speed. Okay, so it's probably a good point to take a pause and have a break. But this is the leg going forward, right? So this is the leg, and when it hits the ground, as soon as it hits the ground, it's got to be a straight line. So in this part, I have to put everything into linear. Otherwise, it's not going to work as a treadmill. It's going to speed up and slow down on the ground. So I'll just go delete those points. There. Yeah, now it glides across the ground a lot better. Luckily with this, you're not going to notice knee popping too much because there's fewer frames. But what you will see is right here, there is a place where the knee is very straight and then it bends, right? And that's actually normal. If you go look at the way people run, you will see this a lot. There's no way I can keep the knee moving back, right? Unless I play around with some other variables. So the only thing I could do would be to play around with this, the distance, right? And then I would have to go and adjust this, make that a little bit straighter. So I'd have to kind of cheat here. But I know that's as far back as I can go. So that's the problem here is if you want to keep that clean, I could get more distance. And the only choice I have is to use more toe roll. So if I can do that to kind of keep that line, that straight, then I can hopefully delete these and go put them back. And then I have a point at the end that's not the same as the beginning. So I have to grab that one. Yes. There. There. Better.